broadcasting, so this should be interesting right now. Now, let's see here. I hate refreshing. Since we're going over the fact that Final Fantasy is becoming trash, okay. I played all the Final Fantasies basically, and beat most of all of them. The only ones I did not play are 11 and 14 because they're MMOs. Kiss my ass, every Final Fantasy fan. I didn't play 11 back when it was on the PS2 and Xbox 360. Yes, I know it was on Xbox 360. Um, and all the above.
I don't count
But
MMO as a Final Fantasy because it doesn't really count as a main line. There's no
no, but
story, just
it has a number on it. So there's that. This is JRPG Gamer with JRPG King Gaming, whichever one it is that's with me here. Um, on this one, I'll try to put a link for your channel in the description below. For that, I gotta remember that once going through this. Who will be discussing with me the fine points and reality of how this is slowly descending from turn-based to active time-based to MMO to hacky slash to Devil May Cry to trash. We have the evolution chain here.
This is gonna be good.
All right. Let me ask you something. JRPG. I was gonna put King, whichever one in JRPG. When did you notice the trend of it slowly becoming westernized?
To be honest, it all started after Final Fantasy X because I got my hands on Final Fantasy 12 for the PS2, and I noticed a lot of mechanics, they were basically turning away from turn-based. And the combat was a mess, okay? The combat was a fucking mess. I hated the party just automatically attacking the enemy, and you had to command them individually on if you want to use spells or abilities. And it was annoying.
Well, here's actually something interesting about Final Fantasy 12.
Yeah, it was supposed to be an MMO. I know.
Yeah, it was MMO. It was supposed to be MMO based. So, but because Final Fantasy 11 had come out, and then they're like, no. Final Fantasy 12's development cycle is really weird too, because it's the first time we ever got an actual good localization.
Yeah, one thing to note, we did not get the Zodiac Age, the one with all the content in it. It was missing in the North American version.
Actually, the Zodiac Age was made secondly. It was a remaster type of pixie-typey thing, which they made the first one, and then with how the graph board was, and then they made the Zodiac one much later. But North America didn't get the Zodiac version until the PS4 releases and the Switch release. I have it on Switch and play it on the go.
That was way too long of a wait.
Final Fantasy 12 is one of those games I don't mind playing again because of localization, and I like the verse and the little political verse, which they wouldn't go back to political verses until 16. We will get to 16. Now, everyone who says the greatness of the turn-based era, oh my god, I got complaints on the turn-based era. I have so many complaints on turn-based. Not on the concept itself, on that era of gaming. Because if anybody's played Final Fantasy 1, are you aware of the troll rooms?
Well, since I have played the remaster version, yes. I know exactly.
You know the troll rooms.
Yep.
Where the difficulty spike goes from A to Z. And they're specifically made in there to troll you. Final Fantasy fans have dubbed those the troll rooms. It's like the developers decide to make your life a living nightmare when that happens. Haha, wrong room. Oh god, no, god, now I've got to fight a monster. Haha, wrong room. Oh god. They are literally there to troll you. And make a dungeon longer.
Thankfully, in the remaster, they give you XP boost and gold boost. And no encounters. You can turn off random encounters. Best way to play Final Fantasy now, period.
It's the remastered version because they have save
Hmm.
states.
Yep, and you can save anywhere. You don't have to worry about, oh, I gotta go to a save crystal or some bullshit.
It's kind of like Valkyrie Profile, how I was playing that earlier. That's an entirely different can of worms on Valkyrie Profile.
Hmm.
But the J and the JRP, but the really time you can tell it went full westernization, and I've talked about in the making of Final Fantasy 15, is the 15 was when it went just full west.
Man, 15 was such a bore fest.
Because 15 went from turn-based to hack and slash based. An adventure. Oh, no, not hack and slash based. To how do you put it? Open world, because open world
Open
gamings were a
world.
thing back
Yep.
then. But they're a small section open world, and you can't control your party members again. And then they made 16, where it's Devil May Cry,
Hmm.
but with an awesome story. I mean, I have very few problems with 16.
Hmm. Well, that's good.
Because 16 has good story, and the combat's fairly good, and the story does the first few acts go good, then die, then good, then die. It suffers a nose up down up down up down. Now I haven't played the new DLC yet. I played Echoes of the Fallen, and Jesus did they decide to make that the final boss more harder than the last boss of the game. But the DLCs are worth it, and I think the Rising Tide is like made to be the final DLC. It's not going to be like we're going to try to fix the game like 15, which I can go on a whole tangent about 15 because I know the making of that development hell. One
Hmm.
word, Nomura. That's all I'll say about 15 and its problems is Nomura. And I am going through slowly Final Fantasy VII Rebirth before anybody asks, and there's a section that has drove me batty that was in remake, and I know you played remake. What? Why is there a Magic Mike section in remake? They brought it back. They brought it back for Rebirth. I'll spoil you for that because it's not a spoiler. It was on the trailer. They brought back a Magic Mike section. And do you know how hard I almost face palmed?
Really?
Oh, I can't stand those sections. They drive me batty. But there's that. But in case you're wondering, when did Final Fantasy start to really change? It was around the 3D era of the PS1, because up until from 1 to 6 was made by Hiroshi Sakaguchi.
Hmm.
And this will tie back to an argument I had with Star Wars. What is determined as canon, like with the Legends continuity and all them? Well, did you know Final Fantasy has Gaiden games? Should those be considered canon or part of the main line? Crystal Chronicles, Final Fantasy Tactics, Tactics Advanced, uh, a bunch of other ones are all within the main line, within the Final Fantasy umbrella, but they're not considered canon. They're their own little verses. Unless you count the little MOBA game where everything's canon.
Hmm.
That divides. But if that's the case, then they should go ask Hirogo Sakaguchi whether it should be considered canon or not. This, which is the creator of Final Fantasy, everyone. There's a little behind-the-scenes knowledge of Final Fantasy. Did you know that Dragon Quest came up first? And Hirogo Sakaguchi was like, I like tabletop games. I like that. I like the concept they're going with on Dragon Quest. Let's take the bare bones concept and make something of our own. And when they made it, they were only told to make, like, I forgot, a couple thousand copies. But Hirogo Sakaguchi had to push, and I mean push the board of directors, like the people that make it said, no, you're going to make it extra a couple thousand. Because I have a feeling this will sell like hotcakes. And they all laughed at him, like, I won't sell, but you're going to make us lose money. And it's also Final Fantasy, the original one, was going to be like the last gasp of Sunsoft. It wasn't Squaresoft yet; it was called Sunsoft, and they weren't known for making good games. They'd made pretty crappy games at the time, like really worse than pachinko machine games. And then they Legend series, which is the actual. So one of them's a Mana series, and one of them is the um fucking uh Saga series. That's also mislabeled when brought to the West. Let's see here. We have like seriously, Final Fantasy falls under so many things. But if we go back, we deviated much because I've deviated because it's just there's so much on the Final Fantasy topic to talk about that's insane. Um, what's your favorite Final Fantasy?
I'm gonna say 4.
JRPG. 4? Wow.
Yeah. My opinion's probably not gonna change even if I beat or get to play Final Fantasy 6. A lot of people have favorites for Final Fantasy 6, which I understand.
Final Fantasy 6 is the last game that was mainlined. By mainlined, let me put it this way. It was, Hirogo Sakaguchi had a lot of say in it. That's why they consider it this is the last one that was made. Because yes, it technically was, but there's one that everyone tends to forget that Hirogo Sakaguchi almost had no say in. They just slapped his name on it because he was like, director or something. That's Final Fantasy VIII. I bet you didn't know that, everyone. Oh, he did all the way. No, 8 he had little say in. 9 he had. 7 was made, but there's different concepts throughout it, which you can kind of tell there were what it was going to be or not. Because when 7 was being made, guess what game was being made alongside it? The last game for the Super Nintendo. Guess what game that was? And a lot of people left to go make that game, and it's considered the crowning achievement of Hiro Sakaguchi and Enix. Can you tell me, JRPG, what game you think that would be?
No idea, because I didn't have the finances.
It would be Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, I never got to play Chrono Trigger.
Chrono Trigger was, how do I put it? Oh, when 7 was being developed, the original 7, everyone, not the new one, the original 7, Chrono Trigger was actually being made around that time. And then people were like, the developers were like, nah, we want to kind of work, all the older developers were like, nah, we want to kind of work on this new project. Forget you all. Which is why Final Fantasy VII is kind of the way it is. The original one.
I like original Final Fantasy VII.
Now, the Pixel Remaster remakes, I would recommend buying that version because that's more the definitive version. Although it is worth noting some of them are based off the mobile ports. But my opinion, when it comes to 4, everyone, the one version of 4 you should play because there's different versions of all of them, because of course there has to be, is Final Fantasy 4 Remake, the 3D version. Because Golbez actually isn't a joke. A lot of people don't realize this, but when you fight Golbez for the first time on the Pixel version, he's a bit of a joke. You can just throw like a really strong spell at him, and like you can kill him. In the DS version that was made, holy crap, he beat your
I
ass.
played the advanced version. Yeah, I played the advanced version. I could tell you full hand, man. They made them tough as nails in that version.
The 3DS version, they made him tough as nails and an actual threat.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the Pixel version, he's still kind of not that. I don't know if they fixed that in the remaster versions.
No, he's piss easy.
So yeah,
to originally getting his ass kicked.
they went back to easily kicking his ass.
Yep.
Damn. That's always a
problem. That was a good thing.
No, it kind of is, but to the caveat of people who love 4, it's not, because Golbez, up to that point in the story, is built to be this big, giant-in-life villain. You know, he's a badass. He killed Tala. For God's sakes, he took on Meteor and, like, just tanked it. If anybody remembers that scene. So when you go to fight him, it's like this big epic moment. It's supposed to be this big epic moment, like, haha, I got to you. And he's a joke. But in the DS version, they literally made him a threat. So this is so when I would say that, but the one for Steam, which is delisted now, unfortunately, you'd probably have to go to a pirate site to find it. Because they made a 3D version of both After Years and Final Fantasy, of the one for the 3DS. I
want After Years. They need to make an actual remaster or port. Square, get on.
Wait, that's not in the definitive re-releases, Pixel versions.
No, not the After Years, unfortunately. One can dream, not now.
That's unfortunate.
I think Square will do it. Who knows when? They'll probably do it though.
Depends on how their sale figures are. They're so obsessive with sale figures, it's almost on the ridiculous scale.
I was gonna mention that actually. So, I heard that they sold well enough that they celebrated with a glass of wine, but then they complained, I think a week later, about Final Fantasy 16, how it didn't meet sales expectations. And I'm like, but you just said that it sold well. So
it sold well
were you telling the truth, or were you just lying out of your teeth, Square? That one.
Here's actually the interesting thing when it comes to 16 and Rebirth. The problem with them is they're wanting them to make the Battle of the $1 billion. They want them to be, huge juggernaut movie.
That's not common.
They want what they had for the release of 15 and 7 remake. People will remember this, but 15 was touted as, and I'll consider it trash, still the base game. If you don't have any of the DLC, the patches or anything, it's gutter trash. 15 is. I will flat out tell you that. It is a fucking gutter trash. Before they put the updates to the story and stuff. And without the DLC. Would
you say it's hurt the sales potential of 16 for only putting it on PS5?
That's the problem. The problem is it being on PS5 has hurt it, but at the same time, it has not hurt Sony. You know why? Because it sold extremely well for exclusive. For an exclusive, that has hit bonkers numbers. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. If you look at it as an exclusive, it's hit good numbers. But if you're trying to make lots of money, it needed to be multi-platform like the original 7 was, remake 7 was. Mm-hmm. Because when they put it on multi-platform, well, they made cuckoos of money. And also, people don't, and the executives don't realize this, but they're mad about how Final Fantasy VII Rebirth sales are. You forget that Final Fantasy VII Remake was sold during probably the worst era that we could probably have as ever, which was the pandemic. What were people doing during those lockdowns? I caught up a shit ton of my backlog, and then that went bonkers once I got my backlog done.
People actually said they're glad there was a pandemic. I'm like, hell no, I didn't want this pandemic lockdowns.
Well, they were glad because I think in a way people could finish their band backlog. They weren't. They were thinking, okay, 2 week break, I can take that. 2 months later.
People are crazy. You know what? My mental health was really shot during that day. That's not worth it to me. It's not fun. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say on that end. Anyway, but yeah, Square, you're making a mistake. You putting it only on PS5 when not everybody has the money to get a PS5. It's not gonna work well. Okay, if you released it on PC and PlayStation, you would have sold a lot more. Guarantee it.
If they'd sold it for PS4, or at least put it on PC, if they'd made it for PS5 and PC, they would get the numbers they wanted
Mm-hmm.
on both of them. Okay, and you're going to say, well, why didn't you put it on PS4? Because PS4 is on the way out, and it costs more money to develop for an older system. So if you wanted to do it for PC, because you can build a damn PC yourself, and or whatever. The problem is PC with specs, but with whatever, if you put it for PC and all that other, it would probably have sold a lot better.
Well, plus the games, from what I understand, they use SSD, and the PS4 doesn't really have an SSD. So
Solid state drive, you mean to say?
yeah, I call it an SSD.
Yeah, I know. I'm just using the techno terms in case a fanboy comes in my freaking section and says, you know how they are.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa. But yeah, there's that. So the Final Fantasy problem is one of the things Final Fantasy had consistently from 1 to 6 was it was all turn-based. It was active time turn-based from 4 to 6.
That was
It
great. I like that.
it was turn-based from 1 to 3. Then they kept the active time turn-based system, which is, what you see in 4,
I like the
all the way
action
up
turn-based.
to 9, and then they went full-blown turn-based for 10. Because you can literally stop it on the Yevon fight and come back 4 hours later, and Yevon still be floating there. Which
Yevon was fucking annoying if you didn't know what the hell to do.
Oh yeah, I could see DSP rage quitting.
Actually, I think he figured it out.
I'm just.
He was complaining about it, if I remember correctly.
Because it's an annoying fight because Yevon can heal himself. So you basically have to use a limit breaker to kill him. That's after you get done killing all your fights.
That reflects zombie stats.
That too. And then we get to the infamous games that I despise like no other, which would be... Can you take what Final Fantasy games I despise the most?
15.
No. Take another
13?
number again. Yes, I despise 13 trilogy.
I think I know why.
Those damn ion fights or summon fights are annoying. You have a death count meter. And if you don't have the right build setup, the right setup, you're toast. The Hope fight, you can get put on a loop if you didn't set up Hope correctly. Or, Fang. So, yeah. 13 is like the bane of all Final Fantasies and that's when they really went full fans on the flashiness. Let's make it more flashy. Flashy. Because 13 has that when they're all surfing through the city on their icons. Okay, not icons, but their summons. I'm thinking of 16 because of icons, because of the icon fights. But, yeah. And that's just flash. There's nothing big main story happening when that sequence happens. It's all for flashy. So there's that problem. Now, where are you on 13? Because 13's a bane of existence.
Well,
JRPG.
actually, I didn't get to play the 13th series. I watched playthroughs. I never got to buy it,
Ooh.
unfortunately. Yeah.
Well, then if you're not for one to be having pain inflicted upon you, then you didn't good you missed out on that because it's a torture fest for most Final Fantasy fans, and that game actually pissed off a lot of Final Fantasy fans. But it's literally uh, the Lightning game because let's just face it, Lightning was made merchandised like crazy so she can sell toys. I mean figures,
Hmm.
but there's that. Uh 16 is the thing with, like as I went back to saying, they have for almost all Final Fantasies they've always tried to spice things up and change the formula, which is good and a bad. But Hiro Sakuchi, the creator of
Hmm.
Final Fantasy, left around 10.2 to 10. Those were his last creations. The one he had the most say in, which is my favorite one that he had a lot of say in, but there's a lot of cut content like the Civil War and a bunch of other things that happen in it. It's Final Fantasy 9. If I did a playthrough of 9, I could literally exploit that game and beat it on a live stream because I know how to break that game. It's one of the few Final Fantasies I bought for most every platform
Mm.
because I'm such a big fan of 9. I've got the original 9 on the Black Label. I own a copy of the Black Label 9. And I've often said if there's one game I could save my house was burning down, it'd be Final Fantasy 9.
Yeah. I know people are on this huge debate still about the turn-based thing. I'm gonna say it's not that they took away the turn-based that really frustrated me. It was certain franchises took away core elements of what the games used to be. Like, for example, I'm gonna bring up Final Fantasy 15. They took all the spells. Where are the spells?
Oh
Where's
my god,
death?
that's right,
Where's
they did take
slow?
away all the spells.
Where's
It went to
cure?
build.
Where's pig? Where are all the spells gone? And I know you want to count the cars and airship, but I miss an actual airship,
You
like one of
didn't get
those
an
big
airship.
airships
Your
where you
car
where
turned
you
into an
land.
airship. I did that
Yeah,
quest, and it was the
yeah.
dumbest
Like
thing ever.
I personally don't count the car as an airship. Like I want an airship, like fully big airship where you can go explore in it and that kind of thing. Kind of like Final
Which,
Fantasy X even did.
well, actually, you didn't fly the airship in 10.
Nobody exploring it. That's what I mean. Like,
Last time we
yeah,
ever flew an airship was 9.
you can
Yeah.
fly 1 and 4. That's good.
If we fly them all of the Final Fantasies up to 9.
Yeah. I know you couldn't fly it in 10, but I liked exploring in the airship in 10. Plus, there was the best NPC that sold you stuff. It was Rin. I like Rin. He was so distraught about his home being nuked to oblivion because, the Guado and Seymour wanted Yuna. Yeah, let's kill several people. They're protecting summoners because we need Yuna for some reason. Figure that out. Because Seymour needs Yuna to be Sin for some reason.
Yeah, well, Seymour really wasn't a very good character. He's one of those characters that annoyed me.
He was a fantastic villain. I'll give him that. Like he was an actual villain. Sin was just like a plot device. If you want to really think about it, Sin wasn't really evil.
Oh God, I could go on about give you a good lecture on how sin basically is how you control populace. How sin was actually probably one of the good factors to spirit it being in Spira. I mean, it stopped war for a while, and people just had to learn to survive, and a bunch of other things. I made a whole video on how sin was a good thing for Spira.
Yeah, but my thing is like, Square keeps taking away elements and then they slowly add them back. So when I saw 16 and they put back the Mughals, I'm like, about time. Where are my damn Mughals in 15?
They're not in 16 either. There's a Moogle, one Moogle in 16.
Well, at least they put it in there.
And the old man goes, "There's no such thing as Moogles. They're child's fantasy stories."
They put a Moogle. There was no fifth
And he
Moogle in
is
15.
responsible for the Monster Hunt board. In 15, there's a Moogle, but it's a stuffed animal.
Yeah, like I miss the actual Mughals. Remember the old Final Fantasies? There were so
The
many
one
cute
Final Fantasy
Mughals.
that has the most Moogles in it is still 9.
Mm-hmm. That's
It is
correct.
the one with considered the most Moogles.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I wonder if that has to be... But there's one thing they've never gotten rid of, the Sid character. And I will tell you this, that of all things 16 people can bash on, you cannot tell me that Sid in that game was not written extremely well. I mean,
Oh, he
oh my
was.
God, they made Sid like an actual. He wasn't just in there for the fanfare of there always needing to be a Sid character in a game. He actually was his own character, fully fleshed out, fully everything, and um, it actually, no spoilers, when he died, it was actually sad. It actually was a good death scene.
I think I saw his death scene on your stream. Yeah, I did actually.
And it was written, if you'd seen how Sid's character was built up till then, it was a good death scene. I mean, I'm not sitting here trying to say, death is good. No, I'm just saying, writing a good death scene in some literature is extremely. Some writers just can't do it right, and it will annoy the piss out of me.
Mm-hmm.
And 16 had very competent writing, and a lot of other good things were in 16. Regardless of what one of people, some can say 16 is overhyped. I would probably agree with you, but if from a story angle, it is written good. From a gameplay angle, the ending,
Kind of a mismatch.
I made a video showing my reaction to it where I'm just like, huh? Because the ending is, no, I'm not going to spoil the whole game for you because those who don't have it. I'll tell you what it is. It's an open ending. What kind of ending it is? It's an open ending. And open endings are not good for the modern audiences. You know why? Because modern audiences are too spoiled. They want you to spoon feed them and say, hey, this
Oh
is what
God, don't
actually
get me
happened.
started on that. Did you know one of the people that made God of War 2018 took an example from DSP and they made it piss easy because of fucking DSP? Thanks, fucking asshole.
I
Sorry, I had
didn't
to throw that in there.
I didn't know that part of DSP lore.
Yeah,
That's the first one of the DSP lore that has been ever made.
yeah,
But
it was because of him. Some publisher decided to make a game easy and accessible, and I hate this word accessible because it really irks me. I'm not a baby. I'm not a toddler.
yeah, but 16's ending, they didn't spoon feed you. I mean, I can tell the writers were given free reign. And the DLC that just came out, a lot of people are wondering if the new Rising Tide DLC, which I have not played yet, unfortunately, fixes that problem. If it changes the ending like 15's did with their DLC, with the episode Ignis. And if you read Dawn to the Future, you would realize we probably would, if Square hadn't been assholes and canceled the game, we would have gotten a really awesome finale. But you know, as I said when I was bashing Star Wars, you shouldn't have to read a book for you to know what's
Square is Square. They like to be dicks, and they like to be consumer friendly. They're almost kind of like Konami, except a little bit more friendlier than Konami. Let's just put it that way. That's what I like to think about Square. They're like, on one hand, give the middle finger to consumers, you know, modernize crap that not everybody agrees with, and then they want to be friendly and give out old IPs and remake them, which is good. Yeah. I'm, I'm gonna be honest. After Square merged with Enix, they weren't the same. Okay, I'm just throwing that out there right now. They've
Hiro
never been the
Sakaguchi
same
was on his
since
way
they
out when
got.
that happened.
Yeah.
Some have said, who are fanboys, and like I said, I could probably fall under the fanboy category, that Final Fantasy died when Hiro Sakaguchi left for it. I am of the opinion, and my opinion is let's just put it this way. I'm kind of on the mindset with how the Emperor is with Star Wars. Although Star Wars is a gutter trash right now, there is no saving it. It's not like there are really good parts with Final Fantasy 16 where I had a good story. Well, I'm looking at you, Rise of Skywalker Episode 9, which was gutter garbage trash.
They really did Star Wars that dirty? Damn.
I could just go on a rise on the sequel trilogies. There's nothing good about those damn things, in my opinion. I avoid them like the plague. And how they got rid of 30 years of continuity. At least Square didn't do that shit. Pull that little stunt. But that's just my opinion, and my opinion is a very odd opinion. But
No, actually, I kind of agree with your opinion, because
so
after I saw
when Hiro Sakaguchi left, what I can say about Final Fantasy is at least they try to change the formula up a little bit, and yeah, but the Westernization. But they take things too far. They'll take things too.
Far. Yeah.
15 is the prime example of you taking things too far. But that was because Tabata was told, you need to sell this many units. And he's just like, I can't sell that in Japan. And he just looked to the West and he's like, I gotta push this thing for the West. And he did, and it made the units back it needed to for Western audiences, believe it or not. And that's how they got their money back. It's actually what they banked on. If people don't know this about Final Fantasy 7, Rebirth, and 16, it has not sold well domestically, which is in Japan, but it has sold like hotcakes in the West. I bet that's not well noted.
With keeping the thing hostage for a console.
Oh no! It should have been on PC or possibly badly, or put it on exclusively like the Xbox One S, like the high-powered Xbox.
Something, man. Not hold it to only PS5. It's gonna hurt your sales on the long run.
That's what it has done. It has hurt itself long run-ish.
Yeah, people can't think of the short term. You gotta think of the long term.
And that's one of Square Enix's massive problems. You want to know a game that spits in the audience's face? That's not a Final Fantasy game. That's Valkyrie Profile Elysium. It's basically Valkyrie Profile 1 light, but badly written.
Wow.
And anybody who's played Valkyrie Profile 1 and 2 and wanted to play and Covenant of the Plume on knows those stories, you get to Elysium and I watched the cutscene movie and you're like, what the hell is this? What am I playing or what am I watching story wise? Gameplay wise, it looks fun, but I mean, you have to have both a good story and a good gameplay to balance it out. I mean, I pointed this out. I just went through last December a rerun of The Last of Us 2. That was torture incarnate. But I flat out said, why do I have to to fully enjoy a game, play the game with cheats?
Hey, quit kidding around.
I forgot how horrible a gameplay mechanism that game had until I played it with cheats.
Wow.
But the woke agenda mind virus is at least safe from Japan hasn't put it in too much of their stuff yet. Please stay out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the Final Fantasy goes, is Final Fantasy becoming trash? Yes and no.
Yes.
I have yes and no. Because because I'm of a divided opinion because I think you can still make good games, but they need to market their shit properly and get their act together internally. And also stop westernizing the gameplay so heavily. There's nothing wrong with going turn-based. What was the one they did turn-based and they released Octopath Traveler as a prime example of people still want things turn-based.
Yeah, I was gonna say, didn't Octopath Traveler sell pretty well
It
on the
sold like
platforms it was on?
hotcakes.
Yeah.
And it's a prime example of people still like the old turn-based games. Because Square was ditching the concept, and then the team that made Bravely Default was like, let's make one sprite game in homage to
How Final Fantasy used to be.
used to be, and then sell that, and it sold like hotcakes. Turn-based still has its way that it can sell. It's just the audience before it is becoming more niche and niche and niche because it's more for older generations. Remember, turn-based. More newer generations are used to this high-pass action-based.
Well, if they're not gonna give us the turn-based, at least they should give us more of the old remaster ports. Like, give me Final Fantasy, the After Story, Final Fantasy 4,
I would
and
like them
you know,
to give you a remastered, an updated sprite version of the original Final Fantasy VII. That's better translated. Do what you did with. Well, we already got 8, and we already got 9 remastered, and we already got 10. The only one that hasn't gotten it is the original 7. And re-release the 3D ports of Final Fantasy 4.
yeah, give us those, please, because I would love to play the advanced version, and then I want to play the After Years. That'd be great if I could play the After Years.
But the closest we've gotten so far to that little wish is the Sprite Remastered Collection, which is a collection of either the MOBA games. They didn't, because I looked into it, and it pissed me off because they didn't do the one thing they should have done. They didn't put the Game Boy Advance Title 1s in there.
It's a shame, because, man.
You all got the inferior versions.
Mm-hmm. It's like an XP scum and gold scum, so there's that. Yeah, but I don't know. They need to just tread carefully on this Final Fantasy thing, because man, it's not the same anymore, man. Like I remember playing 10, and I did play 7. I didn't beat it because there were no guides back then, so I had no clue where to go, so I couldn't finish that. When I did get it on the PlayStation 1, and the advanced version, it was so fun because I had a 3DS and a Game Boy Advance. It was great, and you just look past 10 and it's like, ugh, you know, like, what are you doing, Square?
I'd say their
And
quality has gone down massively since 12.
hmm
You want to go last turn-based game you had, even though it technically wasn't turn-based? That was 12. It died at 13. Because if lightning dies, well, everyone dies.
yeah, 12
Or,
is, I really hated that comment. I hated it. The only thing that got me going was the story, because it was actually good. The combat, well, yeah, it's a mess. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The combat sucks, okay? That's a fact.
mm-hmm. So, what would your recommendation be for anybody who comes across this video? Which Final Fantasies would you recommend people play of the older turn-based ones? Or we're
Can it
nearing
be
the
actual
closing.
turn-based as well?
Well, just the Final Fantasies. Within your top 5 Final Fantasies would you recommend? If you were to give 5 Final Fantasies to someone to recommend, which would they be?
Well, I can't give you a top 10 because I haven't beaten them all, so...
5 you would recommend
Uh,
to somebody. Just
I'm
5
gonna
Final
say
Fantasies.
for all the older Final Fantasies, I'm gonna say Final Fantasy X. I'm gonna say Final Fantasy 1 and 2. I know it has some problems with that, but I still like those. And definitely Final Fantasy 4. And shit. Um, Maybe Final Fantasy 4 Advance.
Okay,
Why not?
I'll
Yeah.
recommend my recommendations. Recommendation is 9, number 1, off the bat, because
Oh
it's
yeah,
not.
9. Yeah, 9 too. Yeah.
9 is my number 1 recommendation. I recommend to anybody. If you want to get into the turn-based and how turn-based started, go find a copy of 4, the 3D version of it. Um, uh, that we talked about on the DS and them. Um, you need, and then I would recommend 10 because 10 went voice acting direction. And okay, we forgot to mention this part. Voice acting in Final Fantasy X is goddamn terrible. Ha 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 ha. Do I need to say more of the Tinus and Yuna laughing scene?
I would say voice acting, if it wasn't Tia's talking, then it was pretty good. Just, yeah,
But
the annoying part with
I
the
would,
laughing scene. Yes, I hate that part.
I recommend, as I
What were they
said,
thinking?
okay, as I said in mine, 9, 4, so you can understand it better. Either get yourself a copy of the Game Boy Advance version or the DS version. 6, so you understand why. 6 is 6. Um, Although I wouldn't recommend it though, but because I did say 10 and 12. Between, if you were to put a gun to my head, here you go. All right, there you go. If you put a gun to my head, I'm holding a gun out in Metal Gear, and say, of the PS4 recommendations, which do you recommend between 16 and 15? I'm going to look at you and I'm going to say 16. I know, blasphemy, but it's more cohesive than freaking 15, where the genres are all over the place and everything. And the DLCs are actually good.
weren't we supposed to get some kind of DLC or expansion for Final Fantasy 15, and they had to cancel it because Dragon Quest 11 wasn't selling well in the West, and they had to put a stop to that, and went, oh shit, we need to stop promoting Final Fantasy 15 because everybody in their mother's basement was talking about
No, you don't understand the pain that caused. We lost episode. Aiden was going to be leading into what would have been Bahamut was really the true villain of the game
it.
for
Yeah, just
15. I
for
read the
them to
book.
push it that bad for Final Fantasy 15, I think would have been fine. But they needed to sell Dragon Quest 11 because it was just doing so bad in the West with
Sold like
sales.
hotcakes when it went to the 3D when it went to the Switch.
Yeah, well, thankfully now since they redid it again, it's selling everywhere, so that's a good sign.
So, but for one of us to come, for people who played the old school Final Fantasies and the new ones, just like we've recommended our pitch for it and why we say the rise and fall of it. So, this is your host, Matt Revere Kiyoma, signing off and giving you the order of which ones Final Fantasies you should play and which ones were good, bad, and why it's trash. And this is JRPG King
Hmm.
guesting with me, talking about this and what his opinion of it. Link to his channel below, which I'll have linked when I put the description. I get done editing this video and all the above. Um, and hope you've enjoyed why Final Fantasy is becoming trash. Later.